Neuvillette and Wriothesley are mirror images of each other, two sides of the same coin, juxtaposing each other while also being similar in many ways. They are both the authority figure in their respective areas, and yet having completely different ways of achieving the justice and fairness that they both seek to ensure Fontaine has. And the true depth of their characters comes from the fact that their path towards justice is not always considered to be completely and without a doubt good. But this comparison between them goes deeper too. With their lores and religious motifs, they call back to intersecting as well. Combined with the fact that they also have their own personal lore separate from each other, these characters are written with a lot of depth. Where Neuvillette is seen as the highest authority in what the people of the Fortress of Meripede call the overworld, Wriothesley is by contrast seen as the king of no man's land. The Fortress of Meripede is the only sector in which Neuvillette and Folklores don't make the rules. It's no mistake that Wriothesley's constellation is Cerberus, a hound that guards the gates of the underworld. However, both of them are shown to be just and fair individuals. In Neuvillette's character demo, it shows him being just and impartial despite the emotional and dramatic voices that speak up in the opera. In Wriothesley's character demo, it illustrates how all prisoners in the fortress are treated equally by him. As such, we can see them as representing justice and equality respectively. This idea is similar to that scene of Bronya and Seal in Honkai Star Rail, both leaders of their respective regions. Moreover, both of them have experienced injustices that have pushed them forward in walking the path that they've chosen, and they both remember these issues as if they've happened recently, when in reality they've happened years ago. Though they both are following the path of justice and fairness, the way they go about it is completely different, illustrating the many faces of justice itself. However, what truly gives their characters so much depth is the fact that neither of their paths can be considered 100% good. Both of them are as just and fair as they can be, but even that path has its caveats. Horand mentions that Wriothesley doesn't follow legal codices, whereas Neuvillette follows them to the T, even including the stranger and arguably more immature laws such as not collecting items on the beach during a certain period of time. He also follows the law even when it is weighed against possible greater justice, public opinion, and in the face of his own emotions, as seen through his story quests. Wriothesley, on the other hand, is not afraid to use other people's emotions and preconceived notions to his advantage, though it is indeed for the sake of justice and equality. Wriothesley is seen in his character story and throughout the Archon quest to evidently have high EQ. In his character story, he gains the most credit coupons in the Fortress of Meripede, had a reputation of being a fair man, and had made strong connections with the others, and others could see how this same situation may occur to them. This combination of factors ultimately led to the unjust head of the fortress to be rioted against, and the fortress was taken over by Wriothesley. It's unclear whether Wriothesley knew for sure that this outcome would have taken place, but we can see from the Archon quest that he does have this ability to take in information and quite accurately guess how others may act based on the circumstances, as well as the ability to improvise when things take a turn. In the Archon quest, he guesses that Linny and his siblings have ulterior motives from the start. Linny presumes that Wriothesley doesn't have the best intentions, showing us that Wriothesley isn't afraid to seem like the bad guy, or for his motives to be misunderstood in a situation, especially since Wriothesley doesn't move to correct Linny, and says he considers himself a sinner. This obviously isn't to say that Linny's at fault in any way during the quest. He was concerned about his siblings, and the way Wriothesley went about handling the situation was meant to put pressure on Linny. Those factors combined makes Linny's reaction very understandable. However, Wriothesley is by no means a villain, as he does care for the ethics of a situation and evidently for the safety of others, stating that he yearns for a just conviction. Ultimately, he's the best in his own role. It's his ability to read others' intentions and make use of it that allows him to rule the underworld. In contrast, Neuvillette is actually incredibly empathetic and has a gentle nature, though he struggles to show this and often doesn't immediately recognize what people mean. Horand says herself that Neuvillette would have known what Wriothesley was trying to do and meant in the situation with Linny. This is because Neuvillette, unlike Linny during the quest, doesn't hold any preconceived notions of other people, and thus that doesn't cloud his judgment. It's also what makes him the best person to be Chief Justice. Even with constant audience input and the audience's own transgressions towards the Fatui, Neuvillette still gives Linny a fair trial, as he gives everyone else. This is especially evident in Neuvillette's voice line about Wriothesley, making it clear that Neuvillette knows about Wriothesley's dark past. There are people who would consider a teenage capable of murder to be dangerous, yet Neuvillette fought for Wriothesley to have the title and reputation that he has. This may be because Wriothesley and his trial may remind Neuvillette of Vautrin, as well as Wriothesley's friendship with Seadrine possibly calling back to Carol, which may explain why Neuvillette was silent for a while after Wriothesley's trial. Both Vautrin and Wriothesley committed a crime in the name of justice, a crime that could even be said to have made Fontaine a better place, creating this dichotomy dichotomy for Neuvillette between the law and justice. Wriothesley follows theological ethics, famous for the term, the ends justify the means. Neuvillette could, in contrast, be seen as the opposite and following deontological ethics, which discusses whether the act is good in itself. Wriothesley asks for the ceremony of being given the title Duke to be done with as little commotion as possible, resulting in Neuvillette having be the one to bestow him the title in private. Other characters give Wriothesley their trust on the basis of Neuvillette's word, and in similar fashion, the traveler is given special treatment when arriving at the fortress of Meripede on the basis of our friendship with Neuvillette. There are various miscellaneous ways that they're opposites too. Neuvillette is often in the spotlight, whereas Wriothesley keeps underground and unknown to most. However, Neuvillette doesn't get out much and declines any proposal of anyone getting close to him, whereas Wriothesley is said to leave to get food and has close friends. Neuvillette is Numa aligned, whereas Wriothesley is Oysa aligned. Even their official arts seem to mirror each other, with Wriothesley being basked in sunlight and Neuvillette in moonlight, the classic sun and moon comparisons. Moreover, we don't know either of their real names, nor do we know their real birthdays. Nonetheless, these characters have a lot of depth individually, as they each have their lores too. Neuvillette's story quest, one of the only two characters whose story quest isn't named after the constellation, the other being Zhongli, is Divulize, also known as Deluges, or Flood. There are multiple mythologies and religions that have stories relating to floods, particularly the Great Flood, such as Noah's Ark, of which Sumerian and Greek mythology also have similar tales. Neuvillette's constellation is Leviathan, a sea dragon who is mentioned in some of the oldest religious texts. The Leviathan is mentioned in several religions, but one sector of religion that is particularly important to Genshin is Gnosticism, as this seems to be where the idea of the seven archons comes from. The Leviathan separates the lower world, governed by the archons, from the realm of God. After death, a soul must pass through the seven spheres of the heavens. If the soul does not succeed, it will be swallowed by the Leviathan, who holds the world captive and returns the soul into an animal body. This could refer to Neuvillette using the primordial waters to swallow up Fontaine and its people, should he find them guilty. Where Neuvillette's lore calls back to him being the personification of the flood and the Leviathan, Wriothesley calls back to Cerberus, guardian of the underworld, and Noah in Noah's Ark. Wriothesley creates a ship based on a prophecy from an archon, ultimately helping to save the people of Fontaine. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It takes 1,000 subscribers to become monetized on YouTube, and I would really appreciate being able to reach that point in my channel. Again, thank you so much for supporting me, and I hope to see you again in the next video.